Hi, I'm Dr. Dyan Haspel-Johnson, and it's time for Tuesday's sleep tip. So I've been talking about auditory, visual, and kinesthetic processing and the impact of that on hypnosis and relaxation. And if you've missed some of the other videos, just a little recap. We all have one or two dominant systems of how we process the world. And then we usually have one that's a less comfortable system. That's actually where we go into the deepest trance state. So the access point for hypnosis and for trance is through the dominant systems, but the deepest relaxation comes through the least comfortable system. Super interesting, right? So the last one, I went over auditory and visual, but I also want to go over kinesthetic or sensory. So that has to do with feelings, a sense of touch, a sense of being in the world in a physical way. So, you know, when I'm working with someone or when I'm designing something for someone, let's say for pain versus for sleep, I might do something a little bit different in terms of how I emphasize each one of these things. I'm going to use all of these different processing systems, right? Because we're a holistic system and we never know. I never know exactly where something's going to tap in the unconscious and in the neurological processing, but I might do something a little different for pain versus for sleep. So I, over the years, for example, have gotten clients from time to time who have had test anxiety or difficulty passing tests. And so they come to me for hypnosis with this anxiety. Maybe they've even failed an exam a couple of times before they get to me. And I've had really good success in working with that. And I think the reason why is that I observed early on when I started working with this, well over a decade ago, 10, 15 years ago, I started to notice that almost every single time I had someone who had test anxiety, they tended to be someone who was dominantly sensory, kinesthetic in their processing. And I realized that the way that most tests are given, most licensing exams, for example, or written tests, is through, nowadays it's really through computers, but otherwise it's through writing or, punching keys on a keyboard. And that is visual because you're reading the questions and the answers, and auditory because you're thinking about it and you're saying it to yourself. You're reading those actual words. But there's really virtually no sensory experience in that. So people who are dominantly sensory people really have a hard time, I have found, with those kinds of tests because they're really operating at a deficit. It's not really too fair actually to have to take an exam like that when you're a sensory kinesthetic person, if you're really dominantly that way, when there's none of that involved. So what I found is that there were ways to design hypnosis that might involve something, clenching hands and relaxing them, or certain types of things that would then help people to feel more connected in their body, to bring that information down to their hands, from their head to their hands, in a physical way. And that way they could pass the test. And so I think that's part of why we had so much success doing that over the years, me and whatever client it was. You know, I have found that a lot of times with insomnia, for example, and some of those types of sleep disturbances, that tends to be really auditory. And so bringing ourselves into the kinesthetic, the sensory experience of our feet, our bodies, that can really help take us out of our heads, right? Or opening the eyes and looking out into the dark night. That can also really help. And so I think it's really important to think about these kinds of things and to begin to notice. It's super fascinating, I think. Let me know if you agree with me, and let me know what you begin to notice about yourself, and share it in the comments, because I think it's helpful to everybody to be able to see that. And you can go to the link in my profile, of course, and download your complimentary ebook and video with my favorite sleep tips. So I hope this helps, and sweet dreams.